Well, hello everybody. Welcome
Hello, hello.
to welcome to a special, or well, I should say a first of a many review videos with DB and myself. So the Tuesdays with Story Review, and for this review, we're going to be looking at Eden Zero, Volume One,
hmm
and what we're where we're going to take it is basically we're just going to talk about the premise of this manga and the story, talk about the obviously all the different characters involved, give our thoughts on the art and everything, and then give our final conclusions for this, well, this one volume of Eden Zero. So uh DB, do you want to talk about the premise?
Sure. So let's talk. It's hard to talk about the premise without talking a little bit about the author Hiro Mashima.
Mhm.
So Hiro has made a couple of major series that have been popular in Japan and the U.S. and other markets, presumably. He started off with Rave Master, which was I don't think it was ever too huge over here, but I always enjoyed it. And then he made Fairy Tail, which it's a top 10 best-selling manga of all time,
Mhm.
which is hilarious considering it was on the air for so long. And the general premise was, okay, I'm still watching with this, but this is stupid and awful, but I like it.
Yeah.
Like pure junk food entertainment.
Yes.
Uh, so when a friend of mine got me this for my birthday year or two back, yeah, I think last year, uh, this ended up being kind of a, oh, okay. I hadn't necessarily known that he was making anything. I kind of feel like Eden Zero isn't necessarily blowing up any charts right now in the US, though they keep publishing the volumes, so somebody's buying them besides us.
Yeah.
And so it was, and you might go, well, DB, why are you talking about the previous series? Well, because this actually has a lot of similarities with his past work. He has done fantasy adventures up to now. He says this isn't sci-fi; it's a space fantasy, and it follows a lot of the similar tropes. Although I think it executes some of them a bit better.
Mhm.
Uh, so basic premise is the main character. Is it Shiki? Is his name or?
Shiki. Yeah.
Yep. He lived. He grew up on a planet inhabited entirely by robots, and they were all his friends until one day a B-cuber, which is basically just a YouTuber named Rebecca, shows up at the planet with her cat Happy, and over the course of things, the robots decide to turn on them uh, and steal a space or to steal her spaceship so they can get off planet and conquer the galaxy. Now, there might be more going on than you think, but that I don't want to necessarily spoil because
Mhm.
that's just kind of a launching point. And also, the reveal is kind of, I thought it was one of the better elements of the first volume.
Yeah.
And so it's Shiki who has the power to control gravity with this kind of bubbly, happy girl with a cat whose name is Happy going on adventures in space
Yes.
and him wanting to be friends with everybody.
Yeah. It's uh like you were saying, there are some similarities with Fairy Tail. You know, like Shiki is a bit like Natsu, only a little smarter.
Yeah, which isn't hard, but
Which isn't hard, yeah, which isn't hard. And Rebecca is kind of like is basically Lucy if Lucy was a vlogger.
yeah. Also, if Lucy had a point,
Yeah, yeah,
like that was one of the things about Fairy Tale that was always so weird and annoying is that if you read the first volume or watched the first few episodes of the anime, you would conclude that Lucy was going to be, if not the main character, one of the main characters, but she never did anything.
yeah. She was just kind of there to look pretty.
Yep. Which, well, we can talk about that in the art.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but basically, premise is Uh, Group of friends goes off into the galaxy, and there's a long-term goal to meet Mother, who's kind of the goddess of this universe. And there's a mystery about who Shiki is and where he's from, because he was
Right.
raised by the Demon King, a powerful evil robot, or powerful good robot, or possibly evil robot. It's a little bit vague,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you don't
He's
get the name Demon King by being a nice guy.
yeah. Yeah. It's although he was very nice to Shiki, though there
Yes.
is that.
Yeah.
Uh,
And I will say that I'm 15, or I'm 12 volumes in, and I have 15 on the way. So
mhm,
I have been enjoying myself. So it I'm trying to keep the review to just what I've read for, or what's just in this first volume. Like, would it grab me as a first volume?
yeah. Well, I got some catching up to do because I've only read this one.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, that's basically yeah the first story. And then you meet a lot of other characters along the way in the first volume. There's one character, or well, I guess we'll talk about that when we get to the characters. But yeah, so the story of it I thought was really is yeah the first whatever it is the first chapter of it is it's silly but funny if silly in a good way but also definitely has a very melancholy ending of it um
Yeah, that's kind of
because
the thing about this series in general, is that it's
mm,
like it vacillates a little bit between silly and fan servicey, and these melancholy dark moments.
yeah yeah and I kind of I will say that's probably not necessarily a bad thing because when you read stories like this, you kind of want to have that sort of balance between humor and sadness because that way it's not dark and depressing and it's not goofy and stupid.
Uh, Also, there's a level where when you have happy-go-lucky characters be sad, it almost feels sadder
Hmm.
than, like, say you had Guts from Berserk being sad. It's like, okay, yeah, that's your default mode of existence, buddy. Like that, we're not
Yeah.
we're not
Exactly.
impressed.
Yeah, yeah. um but uh but yeah so the and of course like every like every manga series it ends on a cliffhanger of a
Yep.
very interesting little
No,
thing
I'm
that
Dr.
happens. Yeah.
Weiss.
Yes, doctor. Yes, Professor Weiss. um but yeah, I think that's do you have anything else to say about the story, DB? Or
Nope. I mean, I will say that it does go interesting places later.
mhm,
Characters that are introduced who seem like kind of gag characters, or who don't seem to have much going on, can become your favorites, just because he does do a good job of slowly layering it up.
mhm,
But the first volume will give you idea of your core two here of Rebecca and Shiki.
yeah. Yeah, and Shiki's obviously a guy who is like we were saying before, he grew up on a planet with nothing but robots,
Hmm.
and he's a human, and so the first time he sees Rebecca, he's like, "Oh my gosh, it's another human," and does something that you probably shouldn't do when you first meet it.
Wasn't it like, what are those things on your chest?
Yes, which I mean, kind of par for the course for this author.
Yes.
Yeah, but he he kind of has that obviously he's he has that fish out of water feel to him,
Hmm.
and you kind of have to have that with have that kind of character with this when you're building up your own building up a new universe and a new creating a new lore is you have to have that outsider character who's got to figure everything out.
Right, because when Rebecca's explaining things to Shiki, she's explaining things to us too,
Yes.
the dum dums in the audience.
Yes, yes. Explaining, being a beekeeper, and then ether gear, and which is that's the thing that Shiki uses for his gravity powers, and um, that's basically what it's. Ether seems to be the magic
Hmm.
of Eden Zero.
Right. And also don't expect a lot of logic or physics, even though it has a little bit of sci-fi trappings. If you look at sci-fi as being like you know hard sci-fi versus soft sci-fi, this is Jello soft sci-fi.
Yes. and but yeah, then you've got, of course, you have Rebecca, and you have Happy, and of course you do go into how the two of them met when Rebecca was a kid, and then everything they've gone through. And again, I don't want to spoil too much about their relationship, but it's it very much like um, uh, Natsu and Happy in Fairy Tale, which and so I guess that's something we should probably address real quick. No, the Happy in here is not the same Happy as in Fairy Tale.
Yes, why he looks. I think they actually are subtly different color-wise, but it's
Mhm.
a black and white comic, so you wouldn't notice.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, but I can confirm they did a crossover manga called Heroes, Hiro, because he's Hiro Mashima,
Hmm.
uh, where if there were in fact the two Happies, one of whom is a normal cat, one of whom is a Robo Kitty.
Yes.
So that's just a thing he does. He likes to reuse character designs. Like this pirate over here looks almost exactly like Scarlet Erza from was it
Fairy Tale.
Erza Scarlet? Is that her?
Urza Scarlet. Yeah.
Erza Scarlet. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
From his last series, Fairy Tale. He also loves to use, and I'm trying to find it here in the comic. Come on out, Blue. There we go. He loves to use this little snowman dog thing.
Mm.
Apparently, it was a major element in Rave Master. Like it was the sidekick character in Rave Master. It was one of the summons in Fairy Tale. He loves Plu. Like apparently, he's been drawing Plu in notebooks since he was a little boy.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and it's funny when Happy sees Plume, and he's like, "Oh, I don't like dogs."
Yeah, like, it's a long-standing joke going back to Rave Master. Like half the people think he's some sort of dog, half the people think he's some sort of bug.
Yes.
No one's entirely sure what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's that is one ding I'll say on the series in terms of characters, and it touches a little bit on art. That it's very much if you read Fairy Tale, it took several volumes in for me to get over the feeling that I was just rereading Fairy Tale.
Hmm.
It develops its own personality, but it's not necessarily the most unique first impression.
Yeah, and it's and obviously, like, the way a lot of the characters act is also very, very much like Fairy Tale. You know,
Right.
but I think, for me, I think there are enough subtle differences that I can look, you know keep this as its own separate, like, as its own separate story, separate from Fairy Tale, and really enjoy it, and be able to immerse myself in the story, and immerse myself in the world.
Hmm.
But
Uh, And I will say, like, these two have some visual and personality similarities to past heroes of his. Um, I will say that they are smarter than everybody in Fairy Tale. That was actually something I thought was kind of hilarious in the crossover that I read. Was that um, in the crossover that I read was that what do you call it? Everybody from Rave Master took charge. Everybody from Fairy Tale was kind of stupid and didn't know what was going on at any point, and everyone from Eden Zero was kind of in the middle.
yeah. But well, which kind of fits, because if you read Fairy Tail, a lot of the characters in that series were not the brightest bulbs. Let's
Rock stupid.
rock stupid, yeah. But and speaking of Fairy Tail, if you are an eagle-eyed observer, you could probably spot some Fairy Tail characters who pop up every now and then in the manga.
Right. And if you aren't a fairy tale reader, you'll just accept this as, oh, this is 100% new. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowledge of the previous series, like Plu here is an Easter egg. He does not show up very often, if at all.
Yeah.
Happy is also kind of an Easter egg. It's like, look, you have a cute design. Why not reuse it?
Yes. But yeah, I think, but overall, like I genuinely like the art style in I like the art style in Fairy Tail, and I like it here too. It's especially like the action sequences, you can definitely feel the movement and the you
Mhm.
know
Right. The action sequences are very well done. If you're after fan service, there's fan service on just about every page. Hero has a type he likes to draw. This is Homura, who appears later. She is of that type. This
yes.
is a spy character who appears later. She is of that type.
Yeah.
Uh, the, this is Rebecca. She is of that type.
Is of the yes. Sort of reminds me of me.
No wonder we can relate to the author so well.
Yes. But yeah, I would recommend reading this. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm gonna definitely go pick up the volumes, other volumes of it later on, and give those a read. And yeah, it's I definitely a good jumping off point, and gets you hooked into the story and into the characters and the universe, all that.
Yep, it gives you a good idea of what to expect with that vacillation between silliness and gut punches, sometimes one page after the other.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, I concur. I would encourage other people to try this out too. If the first volume doesn't quite grab you, I would say it's if you don't mind spending the extra money for a second volume, it can take a couple of it can take a couple to really get going. Like I don't know if I would have necessarily tried this if I hadn't gotten the first volume as a gift, but it did eventually set the hook.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Especially once it starts having its own thing to do rather than kind of feeling like, okay, this is fairy tale. I assure you, they join an adventure guild at the end of the first volume. This is not a story about another guild. I promise you. That's what I was afraid of after Fairy Tales. Like, oh no, it's another guild story, not another guild story, please. Like, no,
Yeah.
that's just a setup to guilds are a thing, but they are not the end all be all like they were in Fairy Tale.
Yeah, they even reference it in the scene where they're I can't I don't know if I can find it again, but they're at the diner, and then he said, yeah, it said when hopefully this isn't too much of a spoiler, but yeah, Shiki says, when I hear guild, I think of a place where you're all in together, where you're you're like a family, you know. And Rebecca says, there was a manga like that long ago, and Happy, hi.
Yep, but yep, yeah. Encouraged. If you're just looking for fun, silly adventure, go for it.
Yes, yeah, you'll have a good time with it. All right, well, I think that's all we have to say. Thank you all for tuning in and watching our first ever review, Tuesdays with Story review. We really appreciate it. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell to get notified, so that you'll be able to get notified when we post more reviews. And we'll see you all next time.
Yep.
Later.
Yep. We're gonna work on our format, get this figured out. So let us know if you have any suggestions of series we should check out or things you'd like us to hear more about or less about. Yep. This is your chance to influence our direction.
Yes, exactly. All right. Yeah. Thank you all. See you later.
Yep. Good night.